Presented by Caltech.
Curing cancer is hard. No, really, it's a bitch. Why? Well, the real problem is we need better ways to talk to the cells in our bodies, right? See, cells communicate with each other through these little gadgets called proteins. Signal transducers, we've got receptors. It's all a chemical language going on in your body, and it works perfectly, but for us here on the outside, it's a little hard to tell. And it's not the kind of thing that we use to communicate. For example, our cell phone, your smartphone. You can call anybody in the world. And mostly independent of where you are, your signal is going to go through, it's going to get to the tower, right? People are going to hear you. And you're not going to burn a hole through the wall, right, using the antenna. So how can we do this kind of thing for cells in our bodies, this very non-invasive communication? That's what me and my lab mates in the Shapiro lab are trying to figure out. We think we may have a neat answer. These are proteins that are called gas vesicles. See, most proteins, you can't really see them unless you have a transmission electron microscope like this one. But these proteins are special. They're filled with air. And because of that, you can shine ultrasound onto them, and they'll light up in the image, like Christmas lights. So we essentially have this way of going from the electromechanical world of medical imaging to the protein world of cells. And we can do some pretty cool things with these. They're like the putting new apps on your smartphone. These proteins can have functional groups attached to them, building them up, allowing them to serve different purposes. So, back to cancer. Think of my body as a planet. There's muscle fiber forests, blood vessel highways. The people living there are these cells. Cancer is a lot like terrorism. You have these cells that are, right, they came from humble beginnings, but then they adopt this destructive, radical agenda to destroy their communities. And it's hard because we need to distinguish the good cells from the bad cells, right? We care about our bodies. Now, let's say we don't have these magical gas vesicles. Yeah, they're not magical, they're sciencey, but how would we treat this problem? One way is chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is basically what you're doing is you have these cancer cells, and you say, well, all these cancer cells seem to divide a lot. So then you say, I'm proposing a ban on all cells that divide a lot. It'll be a tremendous ban. It'll be a great ban, folks. We're going to cut the head off of cancer. I know more about cancer than the doctors do, believe me. Oh, but, broad generalizations like that tend to have problems, right? The vast majority of cells that divide a lot are actually good. They're good for your body, and that's why chemotherapy really sucks. So, what's the alternative? Alternative is, you've got this threat, but you want to take it out cleanly, stealthily, precisely. You can send in Navy SEALs, or better yet, James Bond. Now, this is actually similar to something that we do in cancer treatment, which is a much more promising therapy called immunotherapy, where we take killer T cells, that's the actual name, it's a type of white blood cell in your body, and we send them through this basically special ops training program. So now we teach them to seek and destroy cancer cells. We give them a license to kill, right? So one problem is, James Bond, he gets kind of crazy, stuff always goes wrong, the government loses track of him and stuff blows up. We don't really, there's fun in movies, but we don't really want that happening in your body, right? So what do? We need to keep tabs on James Bond. We need to be able to communicate with him. Two-way communication. Sound familiar? See, lots of therapies, including hijacking microbes to go into your gut to perhaps deposit drugs, or in the case of these killer T-cell agents, we can control them with gas vesicles or proteins. And because we can do this with ultrasound waves, which can penetrate through your tissue without harming you, if we see that these cells are going off on the wrong path, we can say abort mission, right? Or we can, just silence them, tell them to target another area. And so, by doing that, we're not harming any of these good cells, and we're just nicely, cleanly removing the threat. So perhaps a revolution in the future of medical technologies might be brought about by essentially giving cell phones to cells.